Your source for all things Texas Tech. This is the Ask Level podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hey, what's going on? Welcome into another episode of the Ask Level podcast, episode number 35. We're bringing your way today with Chris Level. I'm Chois Woodman. Quite a bit to dive into. Coming off of spring game week for Texas Tech, so spring football is in the books. We'll talk a little Tech basketball as well. What's happening? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Yeah, end of April. I think this is one of the latest times I can remember spring football wrapping up, as we're getting closer to obviously the month of May and spring, or I should say summer school, about a month away or so, with kind of the next phase of the academic calendar, if you will, as it relates to college athletics. So, but good to see that. Good to see that the spring game went off without a hitch. There was no injuries. Everybody was healthy. I think that was first and foremost the biggest key in an event like that. Is that, like, there's just, and it went rather quickly. It was just about 90 minutes. I think that they were missing. I don't know. They even sent a list out of all the guys that weren't going to be participating, much of which we knew. That then you had the Coy Aikens, the Brady Boyds, the Duda Banks, the Jaylon Hutchings was held out, and then all the guys that really hadn't gone through spring at all. So limited personnel, especially up front. And so, but bottom line is they put on a good show for the fans, and away we go.
Did we, the fans of Texas Tech, learn anything from what we saw on Saturday?
We the people. I like
we
that.
The people.
Yeah. I feel like, that we should have some like stars and stripes and,
Right.
like kind of patriotic music playing in the background.
I think so, yeah.
Again, I think I maybe even said that last week. It's just people will make some big picture assumption off of what they saw. If you're looking for reasons to be concerned, you're going to go, oh, God, quarterbacks are throwing it to the other team. That's not good. What are they doing? If you're looking for reasons to be positive, I think that you go, man, we got a defense that's very aggressive and deep and has some size to them and things like that. Again, that's the tricky thing about when you watch your team scrimmage or watch a red and black game, if you will, and Joey, I think he's kind of wanting to go with the name of Hub City Classic with this particular event, going forward. So that's what John Harris and I kept referring to it as. I don't think that's an official build title yet, but we're all the three of us are kind of working on it. But so anytime you see in that setting anything good that happens, well, something bad happened too. Right. And so man, what are we throwing interceptions for? Well, we got really good defensive backs or pressure on the quarterback. Right. So whatever.
You could twist it any way you want.
Absolutely.
Always. I mean, it is truly a practice where your team is playing your team. So someone's going to be good, someone's going to be bad, or everybody's going to be mediocre. So it's just how it plays out. But
I think a couple of things that I would, just a couple of takeaways though. Miles Cole, Steve Linton as advertised. I think there's a lot of size there. I think CJ Baskerville because I'm looking at a lot of the new pieces here. CJ Baskerville did a really good job. Especially in coverage down the field. It's a big old long kid that can really get down the field and run. And I think obviously he'll be closer to the line of scrimmage as well. I think some of those freshman defensive backs, Brendan Jordan Sanford, Chapman Lewis. I think that the triplets, as they started calling them, those guys, I think made some plays. And in spring was great for that little trio. And I think they'll all three be needed at some level, whether it be special teams or on defense next season. And now they can spend the next however many months just trying to gain weight and get in the weight room and try to get the physical part caught up with big boy football, which is not, it doesn't happen overnight. And I think you ran the ball well. The main take, obviously big play potential with Loic Fouonji down the field. I think that was fun to see. 3 catches over 100 yards for him.
Sure.
Got behind the defense a bit, and so I think he showed off some of that speed. But again, overall, fun afternoon. Come out healthy. You check a lot of boxes there, and I think you kind of feel good about where you are heading into the offseason. Now comes the next phase.
Is going back to one specific person off that, Loic Fouonji, is this a guy that can be a big play guy for you consistently? Because last year he was hurt or playing through injury most of the season. Then we saw him pretty well healthy during the bowl game, and he had a big bowl game. So he's got kind of a guy I've got circled going into next season to watch out for.
Yeah, the answer is yes. I think but you touched on the reason why you would have some questions there. It's just about durability and how healthy can he be, because that's the hardest thing to achieve in sports sometimes is consistency. And like what I mean by that is, you can be consistently bad, but what I'm saying is to be really good and then do it all the time. And I think part of Loic's deal is that he just hasn't been available for long periods of time. And I think when he's right, when he's healthy, he's really good. I think he's big, he's physical, but I think he's had he gets dinged up on occasion and misses a game or 3 at a time. And he kind of just never really gets into a rhythm. I think that affects chemistry with your quarterbacks. I think that, and keep in mind, he missed, I think, the first week of spring because he was dealing with some soft tissue stuff, muscle stuff. And so I think, he missed the first, however many, 2 or 3 practices or whatever it was because of something similar. So, again, he would be a guy that I think you're looking to take the next step. I think he's certainly somebody that can stretch the field, but they wanted to add to that component because when he's not there, you don't really have that. I mean, Miles Price is more of a sideline to sideline guy. He's not going to run past too many people. Again, he's a smaller target and everything like that. And then Jerron Bradley, as good as he could be, he's not a burner. He's going to be your big bodied guy, your red zone guy, your catch radius guy. And so that's why Dre McCray was brought in to kind of help, the big play component. But it was certainly good yesterday for Loic over the weekend. I think that was impressive.
No doubt. David asked the question about Baskerville. Who specifically is Baskerville replacing position-wise from last season?
Muddy Waters. So right now you have Baskerville and then true freshman Brendan Jordan at that spot. And that's, they call it the star position. I think they even put 2 R's on the end of it. I think, I'm not real sure. That is the hybrid position. Okay. That is a position that, is you end up rushing the passer, you end up guarding the slot receiver at times, you end up down the field covering a running back. It just depends on kind of what package you have in there at the time. But this is a player that they want to be fairly physical, has to have some size and length to them, but this is also fast enough to kind of get down the field in coverage. And I think that hands down he's better than Muddy Waters in coverage down the field right now. But, Waters was somebody that just made plays, man, really smart football player. And I think he had 13 or 14 tackles for a loss last season. And because he's got that IQ, he would be able to identify you're throwing a slip screen here, or he just go blow stuff up, and he's very physical. And so I think Baskerville, though, is a bit better down the field. But again, where Muddy made his money was up close to the line of scrimmage and in the backfield. And so hopefully Baskerville can kind of keep learning this summer. But he's slated to start at that spot. I think he is, and I think they feel really good about his addition. Just not somebody that's gotten a lot of pub this spring, but I mean, he's got the measurables and he's fit in great.
So now kind of an overview type of question. Now that spring football is in the books, Level, give me 2 position groups that give you confidence going into fall football or through the summer and fall, and then 2 position groups you've still got question marks about.
Well, I feel really confident about quarterback.
Okay.
It's kind of a
1 and 2
layup.
there is pretty good.
That's kind of a layup. I feel really good about your defensive line. I think there's a lot of confidence there just because of how deep you are. maybe even so deep that I wouldn't be surprised if you get a lower level player, like a younger player that maybe says, man, I just don't know if this is happening for me here. This is going to be a lot of people to pass up if I'm going to get to play
Sure.
that would enter the portal. Not going to surprise me there a bit. Positions of worry or concern.
Mm-hmm.
I think interior linebacker is a brief concern. I think, especially now that you get the news that Kosai Eldridge had his appeal denied.
Yep.
That's no longer an option. I think if you go from like being concerned to like, oh my gosh, like you are in really good shape if you get good news with him, but it's not going to happen. Because Jacob Rodriguez didn't participate at all this, and keep in mind he was just a freshman last year, but I do think he's an answer there. I think Tyreek Matthews is just kind of what he is. He's a good, solid player, participates on special teams. I just don't know if you have anything close to what you had last year yet with Kosai and Krishan, because they were pretty much steady, productive, available throughout. And I just don't know if they got near enough credit for what they were able to do really from beginning to end. And I think Josiah Pierre has given them some hope that he can fill a hole. But I think that you've kind of moved somebody over there. You've got somebody that was dinged up that's younger that you're hoping provides an answer. And then you've got like the Ben Robertses, the Ty Kanas, there's some young players there. But again, this is there's some hope there that they can eventually, I just don't know if you feel like you've got that completely settled and answered, I guess is my question at those two spots.
So if you see, I guess, could we see Coach McGuire approach that in the portal at all? That's or those two spots.
I would say this, and I would say that your secondary depth is another area of, I don't want to say concern, but I think if you have a question, I think that you could use more people that could cover. I think, and we've talked about that, like Kobe Minor leaving, in the portal, that created an opportunity for the Mo Horns and the Nate Floyds and the Brendan Jordans, Chapman Lewis, Jordan Sanford type players to kind of come in and try to figure something out. I just think it goes kind of from Malik Dunlap and Rashad Williams to kind of some inexperience. It doesn't mean that you won't get good players to step up. You just don't have anybody proven kind of behind those two starting corners. So I guess to answer your question about the portal, if they were going to do anything in the portal in the late period, it would need to make sense, for one. And two, I'm guessing it's going to be on the defensive side of the ball. That's where I think that you would potentially look to add.
So Rashad Williams has been dealing with, like, I believe, a sports hernia that he went to Colorado for this past week, and trying to sort through that. Is that any extra concern, or is he fully expected to be healthy by the fall?
There's not anybody that was missing the red and black game or the Hub City Classic, or any spring that is not expected to be back by June, July-ish. Okay. I mean, I think everybody, doesn't mean that something won't come up in the summertime, but I think everybody, you know what a sports hernia is, by the way?
I have an idea, but
it's not in a fun place on your body.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
If you're a dude, it's kind of pelvic related, and it's kind of pressure and
that goes down there,
muscle and bone that's not really cooperating, and it's not.
I don't even like to talk about that stuff. I just had the procedure as a man recently, and not any fun.
You had sports hernia surgery?
No, the procedure that keeps you from having kids anymore. So
frozen.
So I'm still
peas.
The frozen peas. So I'm still a little,
Yeah, I got you.
Everything's a little cringy, but I'm sure that's Woodman. TMI for everybody. But
Woodman, that's a mental image I did not.
Yeah.
Need,
so the hernia. Yeah. So I feel for him big time.
Okay.
Right now.
Yeah. So
sympathy.
But yeah, to wrap that up, that all the injuries and things like that, everybody should be good by the time you report and all those kinds of things. But he's either already had some surgery or will have it in the next week or so. But yeah, I say minor. It's always minor when it's not you. But this isn't like he's out for months and months or, anything like that. No.
So a couple of side things from football, but still football related. Joey McGuire apparently is going to climb one of the two giant cranes you've got over at Jones Stadium, according to him. I believe Debbie, the wife, has said this is okay after the wedding. He's got the go ahead after he walks his daughter down the aisle. So that's fun. Joey always knows how to get the fans engaged, involved, have fun with it. So that'll be an interesting one. And then, of course, we have the draft coming up this week, and that's where Coach McGuire will be in Kansas City to hear Tyree Wilson's name called. And as we've gotten closer, seems like it's getting pretty close to a top 5 or 6 pick if you look at most of the mocks and the Vegas odds on that kind of stuff.
Debbie is the wife, the first lady of Texas Tech football. That's right. Yeah, his Coach McGuire's daughter getting married in about 2 weeks, and I think they're trying to get through that. Then maybe they'll entertain some crane climbing. I think it's apparently super safe. I wouldn't do it. I don't know what the wind there is. I'm not going to trust a carabiner to latch myself
pretty
onto.
Big carabiner there, man.
Yeah, and so you can Google that if you don't know what a carabiner is. But it's like the metal latch that you kind of, and I think that's a heavy duty crane, and I think it what about the wind? Well, I think apparently the wind, if it gets to blowing really hard, which I'm guessing they wouldn't do it on a really windy day anyway, but that crane just kind of blows sideways or whatever, like kind of I don't know how fast it does, but anyway, yeah, I'm not super comfortable with my my head coach and really who's in charge of this ultimately $100 million athletic department or a key figure in this business that is Texas Tech athletics. It's kind of the face of it in many ways. Climbing up, I don't know however many 200 feet in the sky. I don't know how many stories that is, but yeah, I just don't like heights. It's just not my jam. I don't. I was out of the country this summer and I watched a high diver jump off a little deal into this pond that was about 15 stories up. And while I couldn't look away, but I mean, I'm just weak in the knees the whole time while I'm watching him go up and up and up. And then watching him dive off. And I'm like, please don't something bad happen here. Mm-hmm. He landed just fine and, toweled off with this little mini towel thing like divers do. But I'm not big on the heights, but hopefully Joey does it. I'm sure the fans will get a kick out of it. I'm guessing there'll be, a little bit of or a gazillion amount of social media activities if he goes up there. So we shall see, but that could be a few weeks away.
Yeah, and then the NFL draft with Tyree Wilson.
Oh yeah.
Sorry,
yeah. So no, you're good.
Question.
I think Coach Blanchard, Antonio Huffman, and Coach McGuire are going to go to Kansas City this week, be a part of the green room. I think when you get a guy that's going to be drafted as high as Tyree is, I think you want to take advantage of it from a program standpoint. Sure. So I think that's I actually did an interview with the folks at the Houston Texans this past week. They reached out to me asking about a lot about Tyree and his background and who he is as a person, because I think there's a lot of talk that the Texans, who have 2 picks, I think they pick at 2 and 12 as it stands now, unless there's a trade, that they could pick him as high as second because he won't be around at 12, I don't think. I think D'Amico Ryans, the new head coach there, is wanting to build with defense, and I think he may have some thought is he may have Tyree Wilson as the top defensive player on the board. So if Bryce Young or CJ Stroud goes number 1 overall and is a quarterback off the board, I think that you're sitting right there at 2 and you can take whoever you want from a defensive standpoint. And I don't think the Texans are necessarily sold on CJ Stroud maybe. And I think the thought is they'll go. So anyway, that's kind of the back and forth that I got. But the Texans seem very intrigued. They were doing their homework this past week. So and that would be good for Tyree because he's from East Texas. Sure. And I think, he would be close to family and all those things. And they certainly, obviously, if you're Houston, you can you need as much help as you can get on whatever side of the ball it is. But you could do a lot worse than Tyree Wilson, man. I mean, he's just, it's been fun to watch his rise to stardom here.
Yeah, it has been really fun. And how much does that do for you? Do you need to see more consistent positional success there if you're Joey McGuire, like have another big year out of a Miles Cole or a Steve Linton to really see that in recruiting? Or do you see a direct effects from it from 1 year out of Tyree Wilson?
Oh, I think it would be nice if you can continue to have, like, if the Coles and the Lintons of the world really kind of are productive. But I mean, Tim DeRuyter is a made man in some instances. It depends on how you want to view this. But when you have Kayvon Thibodeau in 1 year and Tyree Wilson in the next, he's the one common theme. These guys are going to go top 10 and back to back, and they're kind of different players. And that's what, because I think what your ability to recruit to that point is, you say, we figure out a way to really maximize what you're good at and put you in the best possible position to succeed. And because again, they're different, although be it similar, they're disruptive players on the edge. And I think that Tim just does a phenomenal job with his scheme and development and putting guys in a position to succeed. And it's just been tons of fun for all of us around here to watch defense just get better and better and better. And this year, I mean, they'll all tell you they feel like if they catch some breaks with health and things like that, and I've told you a few of the concerns depth-wise, they're going to need a few guys to answer the bell and step up a bit. But I really feel like they think that this defense will be better than last year's, and last year's was a lot of fun. You forget you won all these games without Tyree Wilson, and it's just I just wouldn't have thought that. I mean, when he went down against Kansas, and you're trying to get bowl eligible, and you're trying to kind of get the thing turned as you're 4-5, and you're thinking, well, our best player's gone. This isn't going to be a lot of fun, and yet kids stepped up. They got better. You even had, a few portal entries because kids came back or passed somebody up on the depth chart, like in Tyler Owens and Reggie Pearson's case. Tyler Owens is got a chance to be drafted as well. He passes up Reggie Pearson in bowl practices and is gonna be locked in to start. And, he didn't participate this spring at all either. But there's just a lot of guys, I think, that are draft possibilities for next year on that side of the ball. Cole and Linton, certainly possible, but Tyler Owens would be another one I would mention.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's so easy to forget that Wilson wasn't with you for the end of the season, and you're still able to do what you did. So
I know Tim DeRuyter didn't forget.
Oh, I know he
knew. But when you're a really good team, is when you lose some key personnel like you did at quarterback, and you just still keep figuring out ways. And I think that'll be lost years from now when people remember back to this initial season with Joey at the helm, is that they did it with 3 different starting quarterbacks. They got hot at the tail end of the season without their best overall player and just didn't miss a beat. And I think that's a credit to coaching and to, motivation and all those kinds of things. But they had some kids step up.
All right, so flip over to basketball for just a little bit before we close down. Quite a bit of basketball news. Personnel-wise, this past week, you got a new commit from Grand Canyon and Chance McMillan. Lamar Washington, someone reported that he was in the portal, then he immediately, like 7 minutes later, says, I'm not in the portal yet. So Washington was out there. Tyler Perry, the guy that's from North Texas, put Tech in his final 4, his list of 4, and I think he's going to make a decision within about a week or so. And then Jaylon Tyson, of course, he goes into the transfer portal. I believe that was within this last week, but a lot of movement going on personnel-wise, and this is something I guess we should get used to over the next 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, you add Darian Williams from Nevada, and then Daniel Bacho is committed to Louisiana Tech.
Right.
So yeah, just a lot of movement right now, and it's kind of one of those things where I think you're trying to follow it, and then at some level you just go, hey man, let me know when you find out who all the guys that are playing for you are, and I'll get behind those guys. But because I think there's so many people that are fascinated by the roster builds,
sure,
especially in basketball, because it's just kind of you start over each spring. At least is the way it's been in the last 3 seasons here. I don't see any sign of that stopping per se. But yeah, you've gotten a few answers. I guess you have a few more questions. Still kind of ultimately wanting to see what Lamar Washington does, and hadn't really heard much about Demorion Williams and Kerwin Walton that are here.
Yeah.
And here's the thing that people need to remember. Anybody that was in the portal and is committed elsewhere, or that is on your team that hasn't entered the portal yet, you're not bound by anything yet. So until you get to where you're going to go and sit in classes in the summertime, you can still change your mind. A kid could have committed somewhere, left you and committed elsewhere, and they could boomerang back. I mean, I just wouldn't rule anything out because we've seen that before. Remember the University of Dallas player in Mark Adams' first year?
Yeah.
That decided he was gonna. He was basically yours for a couple of months, maybe even longer. Yeah, man, I want to, put up some numbers and all that. Then he just decides, I guess, as the rest of the roster got built, he's like, you know what? I don't know if this is best for me anymore, so I'm out. And he does not end up, doing that. So all things are still on the table.
Sure.
So yeah, movement continues. But I do like, Darian Williams is a, kind of a 6'6" do-it-all player. I think he's averaged about 7 and 7. I think he really good handling the ball and assist to turnover ratio. I think he's kind of a dirty work guy. He's got some length to him. I would guess he'll fit in with what Coach McCasland wants to do on defense. He was the Mountain West Freshman of the Year, and just kind of a solid player. Wouldn't be surprised if he's a starter type guy. I think, and it's all in front of him still. And then Chance McMillan, I think, combo guard that I think is a really good shooter. I think he's got deep range. 40% last year, for his career. I think even 44%, maybe even last season alone, but 40% overall. But just really shoots the three well. And this is a player that I think North Texas and Grand Canyon actually played in early December this past year, so he saw him up close. Had to guard him. I mean, all those kinds of things. And so, and he's got some length to him at 6'3". So anyway, a couple of nights, they definitely need some size. I think that's the one. If you lose O'Banner to graduation, if you lose Fardaws to Cal, if you do in fact lose Bacho to Louisiana Tech, right now Robert Jennings is your only guy with any size whatsoever that can guard anybody in the paint. You definitely need some length and some 4s and 5s added to your roster. I would say at least a couple to go with Robert Jennings.
2 more basketball questions from the audience. One of them asks, does Jaylon Tyson have to sit out since he transferred from Texas last year and now moving from Texas Tech this year to somewhere else? If he transfers somewhere else, what does that look like?
He would have to sit out unless he gets a waiver from the NCAA. I believe he will get a waiver from the NCAA if he seeks that out. I think that really any player in this situation here will get a waiver based on how the coach was stepped down and some of the controversy that came with it. Whether you agree, disagree, whatever, it doesn't really matter. I think the NCAA will say, hey, if you're the player, you say, hey, mental health, mental anguish.
That's basically the loophole that the NCAA is given with this new waiver system that they
correct
put out.
And I think that it's going to apply across the board here if somebody wants to use it.
Okay.
That would be my guess. But technically speaking, he would have to sit out. But I do think that he would have to get a waiver, but I do think he would be granted that.
Okay. And one more question. This one from Mark says, is it strange the coaching staff has not been fully announced yet? I know there's a couple of guys, but are we getting behind on this?
people, have a lot of opinions here, and I get it. I think that's good that there's so much attention on your program. That's a good thing, because if people were just indifferent about it and weren't following it, then I think that would be a bigger issue. Ultimately, Grant is the only one that knows at what speed he wants to go to, or what he wants to put together, and what conversations he's having about kind of what he wants to add and surround himself with from a coaching staff standpoint. There may be things that we just simply don't know, and I believe that there are on timing of things or identifying candidates, but I just think he's very deliberate with his process, and I don't think he's worried about it. But I certainly understand where from the outside in, you're looking at it and you're going, what are we doing? What's going on? Don't we need more help here to help recruit and whatever it may be? But I'd be willing to bet that by mid to late May, everybody, for the most part, is in place. That is just 2 to 3 weeks away. So we'll kind of see where it goes in the next 2 to 3 weeks, because really the soft deadline for everything is late May, whenever you begin that first session of summer school, right after, at the end of May, early June, when you can really start practicing with kids, and you get some on the court time available to you via the NCAA, and that's when you need to really have your people in place. But that's still, off into the distance there.
Sure. And obviously someone's recruiting somewhere and doing that sort of things. Right. You've got 2 commitments in the last week. So there's stuff going on behind the scenes that obviously we don't see every day. But Level, that'll do it for this week again. Appreciate you.
That'll do it. We turned, what did you tell me? We turned 35 this
35 this week.
Man, we are middle-aged in a hurry. Goodness gracious. Yes.
Is 35 middle-aged?
Well, I mean, I don't know. You're talking about having certain surgeries and all those things. So I don't know.
I guess so.
Yeah, I don't. It's closer to middle age than it is young. I know that. I guess it depends on your view of things. I don't know.
I used to think that was pretty old. Now I don't think it's very old anymore.
I got you.
All right, Level.
Yeah, it's because you're probably flirting with.
I'm getting close. I'm getting close.
What does everybody mean? I'm a young buck, man. Yeah. Anyway. Whatever.
All right, Level. Have a great week, man.
I enjoyed it. You too, man. Thanks, Choice.
That's Chris Level. I'm Choice Woodman. You've been tuned in to the Ask Level podcast, brought to you by Double T 97.3.
You've been listening to the Ask Level podcast, powered by Double T 97.3.